Keith, my guy.
Mitch, how's it going?
I'm doing all right. You?
I'm good. Except for the 90-degree weather we're gonna have all weekend.
That's fine. I like 90-degree weather.
And humid. So
It's not the heat, it's the humidity.
It's not the heat, it's the humidity. Feels like temperature of 100 and something. Not my favorite.
Yeah,
it's not a lot of time.
Nope. Midwest is not a place for you to experience a dry heat.
The dry heat. Welcome, folks that are listening.
Welcome to the show
and potentially watching.
Watching. Hello.
If you're watching or listening, like it.
I don't even know what any of that stuff means.
If you're watching online, leave a comment for us.
If you're digitally, socially inclined to operate within the realms of medias and buttons that allow you to do things, do those.
Leave us a review if you're listening to it on your favorite podcast hosting.
I don't even know. Is
Apple
that possible?
Podcast you leave a review. You can 5-star it.
Okay.
If you're gonna leave anything under a 5-star, just don't.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so today we're talking about the parable of the prodigal son / the lost son.
Okay.
That's what my Bible app said when I was like, oh, it's the, prodigal son. And then it's like the lost son. I was like, okay. So to kind of frame it up a little bit, what's interesting is, so it's in Luke, right? Chapter 15. And Jesus has kind of got some tax collectors and sinners. So not some really friendly people, to the masses out there. And he's kind of teaching to him, talking to him, and the Pharisees and religious elite are watching, right? And so Jesus goes through a set of parables, kind of, it'll be interesting. We'll get into it, whether it's directed really towards the people that are listening or whether it's directed to the Pharisees, right? So we're going to talk about that, but I want to know from you, Mitch, when was a time that you thought you knew better than someone else, so you went off and did that thing that you're like, I know I can do this better, right? Only to find out you were wrong.
Oh,
and you had to come back and like eat some crow and be like, I did that wrong.
Let's see. Anytime building anything with like a proper set of directions.
Yeah.
I have a really good, it's almost it's a curse because I have a good general strategic mind for the way things go together. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the engineer behind the item that needs assembled has a process that I don't fully align with till the very end of the direction manual, right? You're like, why are we doing it that way?
Why are we doing it this way?
Why are we putting up the walls first before we put the roof on, right?
Yeah.
And, let's just do this. It'll save time.
Yeah, save time.
And then you realize at the end, you're like, we gotta, sorry, fellas. All right, let's undo all that. Take that apart. Take that, stop, turn it around.
Yeah.
And a great example with kind of some of that, it's like the Legos.
Oh.
Building the Lego sets and stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy these days that now if you are older like Mitch and I, back in the day with the Legos, you just opened the box. There was all the Legos,
all the pieces.
They were just everywhere, and you did have an instruction manual that kind of told you how to put it together, but you had to find all the pieces. Mm-hmm. Now they're all in bags. They're all in pre-labeled bags, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on, and so you just open that bag, you do the page of instruction, and then you move forward.
And really, like, I didn't really have a whole lot. I don't feel like I don't have in my memory. I don't have a lot of like childhood memories of putting together the original out of the box Lego.
Oh,
all my Lego. Well, all my Lego playing for the most part was the big giant tub of the generic Lego.
Generic Legos, yeah.
And do you say Legos plural?
Legos.
I do too.
Instead of leg, because each one is a Lego, and so you have a lot of Legos.
No, I think the Lego community looks at it like cacti. It's
really?
it's just, oh, do you play Lego?
Like, I think it's Legos.
You and I would say so, but that's not the community.
It's not cool anymore.
That's not.
So Lego is both singular and plural. Interesting.
Right now we're playing podcast.
Funny story. The plural form of octopus is octopi. Mm-hmm. Okay, and when I was in high school, we went down the plaza here in Kansas City, and there was like a bulk candy store. You know, you go in and scoop some candy in a bag, and they weigh it and whatever. And I think we were going to a movie or something, so we went in the candy store first, and they had gummy octopuses. It was like written on the thing, and right. And so I walked up to the cashier, and I was like, "Hey, just to let you know, the plural form of octopus is octopi, and your sign's incorrect, right?"
Oh, they had written it on there.
It was like a printed, it was like printed, so it wasn't just handwritten, but it was like printed to make it look nice or whatever, right? And I remember the lady looking at me with this "I don't care" look, right? You know what I mean? And I felt like I was so smart at the time, right? Because I'm in high school, like you learn these things, and it's like, so I strolled up there confidently and was like, that is incorrect, right? And she just had this look on her face like, "I get paid $5 an hour, kid. Go away," So it was great. I remember that. Anyway. So,
oh man! All right, well, let me keep thinking. Like, do you have a good one?
Most of my I do remember I do remember one situation. I don't know if it sort of fits, but it kind of doesn't. Anyway, I worked at a roller skating rink growing up. I don't know if I've mentioned that before. Probably.
Oh yes, we've talked about it lots.
Okay, great.
You can roller skate backwards. All the listeners know.
I can. Anyway, so the guy that owned it was super, super nice, super great. He owned 2 roller skating rinks, one in Nevada, Missouri. And he was like back and forth, and he just kind of got tired of it. So he ended up selling the roller skating rink to one of the guys that had worked there forever and a day, right? And so, I was there, I was helping out, and, we're obviously working. And, I feel terrible about it now. But at the time, we always did things a certain way, right? Because that's how the old owner wanted it, right? He wanted it this way, this way, this way, okay? And it's just the stupidest thing, but like the candy bars, we had a big shelf of candy bars, right? So you would stack up the candy bars thin all the way up, and then the top one, you would face it so they could see what the candy bar was. But you took one off the thing, right? So it saved room, okay? And then the new owner, his wife was helping out, and with the business and stuff, and she came over and she's like, "No, I don't want the candy bars this way. I want them this way, where they're all faced, right? Okay," which doesn't save room in any way, shape, or form. Okay, so me and my teenage, self, I was like, Mike never had us do that. Okay. And she got like so mad at me, and she was like, "Well, Mike's not here anymore, right? This is the way that I want it done." Okay. All right. So, and this is just one example, right? Of like maybe 2 or 3 things that would change. And, it's, to be fair, it's their business now, right? So if they want to change something and how we do something, it's perfectly normal. But I worked there for like 4 years, at this point, right? And I was like, okay. Well, anyways, she walked off, and then I would just change it back, or whatever, right? And so I got like gently told maybe it wasn't such a great environment for me to work in anymore, right? And so I did have to kind of so I left. And, I thought about it, and I kind of came back later, and I was like, "I'm sorry, I was kind of a jerk," So anyways, that was kind of like one of those moments where it's like, you just think you're right in the time, like, this is how we've done it. This is how we've done it forever, and this makes more sense, and blah, blah, blah. But, like, it's not your it's not your business, right? You were working there. You're supposed to do what they tell you to do.
Well, here's one. I've told you this story. I don't think I've told this story on the podcast, but my zero turn mower, first time on a zero turn mower experience, right?
I don't think so.
So, in our childhood, those were like, now I think pretty much that's like the average lawnmower out there.
Except for suburbia, when we were at least a rider, at minimum a rider. When we push mowed everything, and you were luxury if you had a riding lawnmower.
And the rider we had when I was a child, but we were mowing 3 acres worth of stuff, 5 acres worth of stuff. The rider was the Forrest Gump snapper.
Yeah,
that's what we had, right? Like that, and then that's not a zero turn. It's a wide turn. The old snapper. It was a sweet ride. Yeah. But so I was actually working lawn care stuff, my first experience with the zero turn. Well, I did my whole first summer just on a weed eater, right? String trimmer to the city folk out there. So I was on the string trimming weed eater. Yep. It's all summer long. That's all I did because I wasn't seniority enough to mow. The other people did the mower. I was the grunt work, right?
Yeah.
And then I was under the illusion that longevity. I would work my way up to the seated position of mowing, right? So then I come back,
the coveted position.
Yeah, I come back the next summer and to use my biblical term, I was indignant because there was this young lady there who'd started a couple weeks before me, and she was a couple years older than me, and this was her first summer with us, but she's mowing the football stadium.
Oh my gosh, not even just the field, the football stadium.
And I come back, and I'm back, and they're like, great. There's your weed eater. It's all gassed up and ready to go. Get back to it.
Yeah.
So I was like, grumpy. I can mow. Right? So, and I'm not very good, I don't think, at masking my discontent.
No, right? You're not. Even now.
And so my boss, loved this guy. He was a profound role model in my life and formative, very formative mentor for great mentor in 6 formative years of my life. And so he of course knows it, and he's like, hey, the next day he's like, hey, you're gonna get to mow today. Right? Takes me down to the stadium.
Nice.
Puts me on the zero turn. Never been on one. Right?
Yeah.
He set all this up. Right? Like someone else drove it there. Like if I would have drove it the half mile from the shop, and maybe have got used to it. It was sitting right there at the goalpost. And he's like, here's what you got to do. Get on there, drive it straight to that other goalpost. I'll meet you down there. Right?
Yeah.
You should have seen the zigzag snaked line. It was embarrassing. Right? Gets down there. He's like, so you think you've earned the ability to operate this here machinery, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, no. He's like, you want your weed eater back? He's like, yeah. He's like, you want to practice on, other places people aren't going to see it? I was like, yeah. So how about that one?
That's a good story.
How about that one for thinking, I want my inheritance. I want it now because I've earned it.
And I can do better with it.
Yeah, and this other person that just showed up I had no idea whether this other person had experience or I was pure seniority, indignation.
So the parable, you kind of mentioned there a little bit, but for anybody that hasn't read it, is this parable. It's pretty popular of a father with 2 sons, and one of the sons, the younger son, is like, hey, I want my inheritance now.
I wish you were dead. I want my money.
I want my money. I can do better with it. And so the father divides his stuff in 2 and gives both the brothers their inheritance, gives the younger one his older one. Older one sticks around, continues the estate and the fields and the crops and everything, and the other one just takes it, goes to the big city and blows it. Goes to Vegas, blows it on black, right? And then he finds himself out of money, working for this guy, feeding pigs, living with the pigs, probably eating the leftovers of the pigs, and just is like, you know what, like, my dad's got to at least hire me to be one of his servants or something. I could eat better, with my dad. So he goes back, and before the son even makes it to the house, father sees him, runs out, greets him, kind of cuts him off as he's trying to apologize, and tells everybody, bring him in, let's have a feast, right? And just welcomes him back, right? So obviously, from our perspective, this occurrence where we go off and try to do our own thing, only to realize that our own thing isn't the best thing in the world, right? Is a pretty common occurrence. Do you think, though? Now, I mean, I'm not saying it's solely focused on younger adults, but I see it more prevalent amongst younger adults like me. And a lot of my stories and thoughts around this is like, oh yeah, I did that. I did that when I was in college or right after college or whatever.
Well, I think the further you get away from your mistakes by aging away from them, right, the easier it is to maybe see yourself in a not so favorable light, right? And give yourself that forgiveness on stuff. So the closer it is to you in proximity of time, I think the less easy it is to be self-critical.
So you think at 80, I'm going to look back and be like, why did I do that podcast?
Yeah. You're going to look back and be like, what an idiot, right? Because, next week you might not look back and say, what an idiot.
Sure, okay.
But the farther away from it you get removed, it increases the possibility, because you have more perspective. It increases the possibility for you to recognize. And sometimes we're so in it, right? Like,
you're still involved in the situation, yeah.
Consumed and inside it, that it's hard to step back and take that wider view. So for you right now, the young dumb adolescence-ness, right?
Was that just in the future? It'll be the middle-aged,
the young dumb middle-agedness, right?
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. Boom. Hot take.
What do you
think?
I like that. I like that thought. That's probably more accurate. Although I definitely look at some things in my recent, like 30s, early 40s, late 30s, early 40s, where I'm like, I probably shouldn't have done that, right? I just think when you're, like I see it in my oldest, right, where it's not just she has to be right about everything, but it's like she has to show that she's as intelligent or as mature or as wise as everyone around her, right? And that wanting to kind of prove herself to her parents and to other adults, and you know what I mean? I think that drive is there, whereas as you get older, I still think you feel that way, that you have to kind of prove yourself or whatever. But maybe you don't have that drive as much. Maybe I don't have that drive as much anymore. I did when I was her age. I was exactly the same way, right? Like, needed to prove myself, all the time. So anyway, I did have a question, because this is just one of like 2 or 3 parables that he told in this setting, right? And he told the parable of the lost coin, right? If you had 10 coins and a woman had 10 coins and she loses one, is she gonna turn on all the lights in the house and move the furniture and sweep and look for this one coin, and then grab it and exclaim, I found it, and then call all of her friends, look, I found my coin, right? And then he tells a parable of a lost sheep, right? So shepherd's got 100 sheep. One gets lost. Is the shepherd going to leave the other 99 and go find the one lost sheep, find him, and then exclaim to everybody, look, I found the sheep, right? And his kind of one of the lines I'm not quoting, but I'll paraphrase, is he says that just God and the kingdom of heaven and the angels rejoice when one lost sinner is found versus 99 faithful or righteous people, right? So he tells us to a group of sinners and tax collectors while the Pharisees are there. Who's it directed to, you think? The Pharisees? Like, is he telling these stories and then kind of in the back shot going, are you guys paying attention? Or is he really directing it towards like the people that are listening and saying, forget these people, listen to what I'm saying?
I think that's what makes the parables of Jesus it's so impactful that they can be discussed and dissected and seen from all these different angles for thousands of years. That's part of the beauty of them is you can come at them from several different angles and there's truth to be found from each of those perspectives. So when you look at them, you can look at them from different perspectives. Like we talked about with the prodigal son, you can look at it from the perspective of the swallowing of pride that it would take to just put your pride aside and return to the Father. Just put your pride aside and return to the Father, right? Or you could be the Father and just put your pride aside and accept the Son. Or you can get into the other angle of the brother and just
stuck around,
just
right?
mad because he's the righteous. He's done everything right. And why?
It's not fair.
Why are we rewarding someone who didn't follow the social norm of expectedness? Why does
you don't reward your kids' bad behavior?
Right.
Well,
he did.
He did. So contrary, right?
But wouldn't you do the same? Of course.
Yeah, of course I would.
Right? Because he took it to the extreme. He didn't just say the son got his inheritance, put it all on black, it hit red, he came home broke that evening.
Yeah.
End of story.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, he took it to the extreme of the separation that the son's pride hit.
Well, and the true low that he hit in his life, right? Like, not just losing the money and then going back, but losing the money, finding a job, taking care of pigs.
Right? I mean,
like the lowest low.
So this context of the parable goes to this extremities to give you these different angles that you can approach it from. And that's what's great.
Yeah.
That's what's great about those, when you're talking about the lost coin or the lost sheep, right? Some of those angles too is like, well, there's this assumed that the other 99, it gets real complex if I don't assume that the other 99 are safe and secure. Right?
Yeah.
If I don't,
Yeah.
if the 9 coins are, I have to make the assumption that the 9 coins are in a safe and secured location.
Right. And the 99 sheep are okay. And
then
a pack of wolves are going to eat them.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true, because I was thinking about that when I was reading it last. I was like, leave them in the field. I hope there's more shepherds. I hope there's someone else looking after these other 99 sheep. So in this situation, in the parable of the prodigal son, or the lost son, who do you relate to the most?
I think that's the beauty of it. You get to change.
Who do you relate to the most, you think, between the oldest son that stuck around, or the other son that left and lost it all and had to come back? You can't pick the father.
No, I'm always I'm the trailblazing screw stuff up and
Oh,
that,
okay.
yeah.
I didn't expect that answer from you.
Yeah, I'm not the.
I didn't expect that. I thought a middle of the road answer. You tried to go the middle of the road with it depends, right? But
Well, no, I was just going back to the fact that I think a strength I do have is being able to see from most anyone's angle. Right? Like,
whether you agree with it or not.
exactly. Like, a phrase I commonly think of is like, I could see how that could happen. I see how that could happen. Right?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah.
yeah, I see how that, of course, right? And I don't think that's like an excuse for our human sinful nature of brokenness. I just think I like to see it as a character trait or a personality trait that I think it's probably just it's empathy. That it doesn't mean sympathy. I don't sympathize or feel sorry for this situation, but my empathy allows me to recognize that, oh, yeah, I totally see how that could happen. It doesn't make it right.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily make it wrong. But the empathy part is that I can understand. I can understand the thing behind the thing that led to the thing that created the situation.
Yeah. I think I'm probably more like the older brother that stuck around. I'm pretty. I think not to take a middle of the road. I can be that lost son every now and then, right? But I really like a loyalty is a big trait with me, right? And so I think that tends to make me more of the older brother, where I read this story and I'm like, that's not fair.
Well,
Right?
you are very much, and as our friendships evolve, like there's right and there's wrong, and there's like every question has a right or wrong answer.
Correct.
Right.
That's right.
And that's correct in how you process
Yeah.
the world. And
there's very few gray.
And my world is very, very gray,
with shades of gray,
with
lots of shades of gray,
with right and wrong at the extremities.
Yeah,
they're not right next to each other. Right, it's not a fine line. It's gray. It's like, oh yeah, they're mostly right. You're like, no. You're far more mathematical and analytical.
Yes, and then every question has to have a correct answer.
Yeah, circular references in the old spreadsheet.
Yeah,
doesn't fly.
So I don't know it, and I'll try to do my best of describing it. But a long time ago, I was told that we're not going to get political in any way, shape, or form. But in a political science class, I was explained that a lot of people look at the extreme ends of like the extreme Democrats or liberals and the extreme conservatives, that it's not a linear line, right, between the two. It's more like a circle, right, with a little break. So you see a circle, and at one end you have like your extreme left and your extreme right. Well, even though their thoughts are different on how they approach things, because of their extreme nature, they tend to be more similar than people in the middle, right? Yeah. Okay. So I look at that in this context where my things right and wrong, and then the circle's gray, right? Yeah. You live in that circle of gray. I live in that right and wrong of the circle, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So people who process the world in a much more linear, analytical, or not, but the right or wrong way, even if they disagree, one's on the side of this is right, the other's on the side of
this is wrong.
This is right.
Yeah.
They're much more similar. Yep. In how they
process it, nice. Right? And so, anyways, so I was thinking about that. So, we're running out of time here.
Oh, so, the sands of time are going down, and I got to stick to it today.
Yeah, you got very important things to do. I got to get in my basement before it gets 100 degrees outside, because it's cool in my basement. Right?
Not to.
Well, that's also where my office is, so that helps. So I was thinking about this. If you had some advice to give to people who are maybe outside of a situation or maybe inside of the situation, who are more like outside or maybe like the father who sees one of their friends or kids or relatives or whatever becoming that wayward person and doing things that you wouldn't agree with, and I'm pretty sure society wouldn't agree you should take your inheritance and go blow it, right? What do you do in that moment? How do you help that situation? How do you help that prodigal son? How do you help them realize and come back? I know what my answer would be, but
well, I think if you stick to the scripture and follow along in the scripture, the father was always available. He was available.
Yeah.
He was available for the return, and he was always looking for that opportunity.
Yeah.
Now, he ran out to meet the prodigal son. So he didn't have an air of righteousness when the return happened.
Right.
So, humble, steady, not condemning.
I told you so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would probably, I think, if you follow the model of the script of the parable that Jesus laid out for us, I think if you want to model the Father, those are some of the key the key takeaways on the advice I'd have is approach it with steadiness, humility, availability to help.
Yeah. Yeah, my answer would be very similar. I don't think in a lot of situations I think people have to hit bottom and to realize the trajectory that they're on isn't really working, right? Because you're just going to lie to yourself in the moment, right? That you're doing it the way you should, and blah 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 blah, right? So I think that's accurate, and I think that really trying to be there, be available, and be supportive of the return at all times, right? It doesn't mean supporting the behavior or the lifestyle or whatever, but supporting of the humility of supporting the return, right? I think is the right thing, because I don't think you can persuade people. I don't think the father could have met this prodigal son in the city and been like, "Come on back," right? I don't think it works that way. So yeah, that's it.
Hey,
we made it.
Time we're gone out. The last grain has dropped. This has been fun.
This is going to be great. If you've made it to this point,
hey,
you should
thank
definitely
you.
like, subscribe, leave a comment. But tune in next week. We're going to have a fun episode. I won't spoil it.
Okay.
But we're going to have a great episode.
Good. You don't spoil it
definitely wanna
because
see it
apparently it's a secret to me. All right.
We'll see you guys.
Bye, guys.